This is it then. 14 rounds, 3 months of action have led us to this point. One race left and 5 drivers in contention for the World Championship. Tier 2 in the Formula Racing League has been by far one of the most absurdly competitive divisions in perhaps all of international league racing of late. And week after week we have been treated to remarkable spectacle after remarkable spectacle. The 15th and final round of Season 7 in Tier 2 brings us to the 4.3 kilometre Hungarian circuit in the outskirts of Budapest. Welcome along then to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jack Bowie, Kaizen, Carlos, Jay Hartnell, or Lorenzo tonight. Let's find out as the first qualifying session gets underway. My name is Rob Kershaw. I'll be guiding you through what is sure to be a dramatic title decider tonight. And if you would have said at the start of the season at the Monaco Grand Prix under the lights that 5 of those racers would have made it to the final round of the season, still in contention for the World Drivers' Championship, I would have been very happy, that's for sure. But at the same time, would have been very surprised as well. This has been an excellent season so far of racing. Started at the back end of last season, and we are now in the position where this title is set to be decided in dramatic fashion. 3 qualifying sessions ahead of the drivers then in Hungary tonight. We're going to lose, as it stands, I think 2 drivers. I believe we're going to have 17 drivers in the lobby, I think, tonight. When eventually everybody gets themselves in to qualifying tonight, and then of course 15 drivers in the second qualifying session, followed by 10 in the final one. That is the shootout for pole position. And I think it's the first time this season I've actually had to go through the qualifying rules, because as far as I remember, I don't think I've actually covered a 3-part qualifying yet this season. So, I mean, everybody knows the rule changes by now, but we will just go through them anyway. The Q2 tyres are not required to be used in the race as they were previously. You can start the race on whatever tyre you fancy. The qualifying, what would usually be a qualifying hour in real life Formula 1, does not contribute to your actual starting tyre for the Grand Prix. So the drivers have free rein on that one. But they still have a tyre allocation, so you still don't want to burn through too many sets in qualifying and have none for the Grand Prix, essentially, when you have to stop on to another set of tyres. So around the final corner then comes Kaizen in the Aston Martin. The 2023 Aston Martin was revealed yesterday, coincided with the McLaren launch, and probably didn't get as much attention as most of the launches have done. But in fairness, the new car looks exactly the same, really, as last year's edition. Piloted this season, of course, by Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, instead of Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, who departed at the end of last season. Kaizen, one of our 5 championship contenders, lost the lead in the title race at the US Grand Prix last week, was in the net race lead, but sadly for him, made a mistake in the final part of the lap, despite being so comfortable, really, for large parts of the race up to that point. That saw him surrender any chances of finishing the race, any chances of scoring points. Jack Bowie finished 7th in Texas last week, but that was enough to give him a 10-point championship advantage coming into tonight. There's an awful lot, really, that can happen over the course of this evening's action. We've got Jay Hartnell on 286 points, 29 points behind Jack Bowie. So it's unlikely, as Kaizen sets the first that time, 117.6, unlikely that we'll be seeing Jay Hartnell win it tonight from 5th in the championship. Same too, really, for Lorenzo on 287 points. So it is sort of really Jack Bowie, Kaizen and Carlos that we are looking at as our 3 main contenders tonight with two, let's say, more outside options behind them. That was Carlos, I think, either having his lap ruined by a slow-moving Aston Martin, or it was already gone before that. I suppose the Aston Martin of Sport Crazy will be hoping that it was the latter of those two, because he was rather in an awkward spot, shall we say, for other cars passing. He does now peel into the pits. Carlos will come towards the final corner for Mercedes, and he will begin his first flying lap of qualifying. He comes into tonight 15 points behind Jack Bowie. Kaizen 10 points adrift. Certainly in this one is Carlos. He is the only one of the top 5 so far this season who has only won one race so far this campaign. Austrian Grand Prix, second round of the season. He was, you could say in some ways, actually quite unlucky not to win in the States last week. Lorenzo defended well and took the win away from him, or defended the win from him. Lorenzo, a very, very worthy race winner. In the States, Carlos most certainly would have been. And those extra points would have put him a lot closer to the top. It actually would have put him second in the championship if he would have taken the win. So a little bit, I can't speak to what he was feeling, but probably a little bit gutted after that one. Would have also, of course, put him a lot closer to Jack Bowie too, but he can't afford to think about that. He's got to think about tonight. Apparently he was playing COD, actually, not long before the race, so he's clearly in quite a relaxed mood coming into tonight. Not really stressing too much about this title decider. Carlos in towards the penultimate corner for Mercedes. He has got a car in front of him, but that will be no problem at all as he comes around the final turn. Flips open the DRS rear wing, and it is the P1 lap time, 117.6 in the first qualifying session. And it is interesting in these staged qualifying sessions where you've got qualifying 1, Q2, Q3, exactly how much pace are people deploying in the early part of qualifying? Exactly how much are certain drivers willing to show of their true qualifying pace, and how distinct will that be by the end of the session as Mystery spins at turn 4, and having set on the timing screens a purple first sector, that puts that lap time out the window essentially. Sausage Joe for Alpha Tauri, who, as far as I can see by my records, makes his first appearance this season in the final race of the campaign. Round the final corner comes Joe. Decent run that from the Alpha Tauri, and he's across the line to go P6. 118.3 on medium tyres, remember, so that's a good lap from Joe. Very good lap, actually. Only driver so far to run the mediums in qualifying tonight. Scenario 7's backed out of his lap time for Alpine. Mystery's making his way back round to the pits at the moment. Wazza, who's got onto the podium in the USA last week. Fantastic effort in the Ferrari. He's jumped into the Mercedes tonight to replace Daz Parker through the chicane of turns 6 and 7. He goes in towards 8, now through 9 as he traverses turn 10, 11. Such a tough corner to get right, evidenced by, you might remember, Pascal Wehrlein's big crash there a few years ago for the Sauber team. Through 13 in towards 14 for Wazza. Almost in a way upset the apple cart last week when he got into that top 3. Got in amongst that top 5 in the championship in terms of the running order in Texas, and he goes P5 at the moment, 117.8, just behind Biggle. I say Biggle, Bigaloo, Big Lou, that's the one. There you go. I knew I was getting that wrong somehow. There you go. Takes a while. Spin for Red Bull, just to spare my blushes. That was Jack Bowie actually spinning for Red Bull, so he is P9, 121.3. I'm going to pretend that that mispronunciation of Big Lou's name didn't happen. We can all just do that, right? Sport Crazy then. Well, I don't know if he was planning on actually pushing at the end of this lap, but if he was, he's not going to be able to because he's got the Ferrari in front. In fact, he has. He's gone P1. Sport Crazy, 117.5. I thought the Ferrari in front of him, which was Moody, had rather ruined his lap, but he didn't. He somehow didn't get affected by that in the final sector. That is absolutely remarkable. As scenario 7 begins his first lap time, it just shows how much I know, doesn't it? In towards turn 1 goes the Alpine. As he flicks open the DRS, he's been in 2 races so far. Has scenario 7. Unfortunately, he's failed to finish both of those. Let's see if tonight, in the final round of the season, he can get himself into the points-paying positions. The climb up towards turn 4 for scenario 7. Out-qualified a teammate in one of the races that he has been in. And then the rear end says, nope, not having that, as he goes through turn 5, just after a little bit too much of it. And that puts pace to that lap time as Becco, on his return to Tier 2 in Season 7, goes 6th fastest in this first qualifying session. We harp on every week really about Becco and about how unlucky he's been so far this season, because he really has been. Nothing seems to have gone his way at any point. Moody has lost his front wing for Ferrari, so back into the pits he comes, and he has been so unfortunate though. I don't think it can be understated really. For Becco, 5 pole positions so far this season. Took a sprint race win, won that in Canada earlier on in the campaign, but not even in the end a podium in a race to show for those fantastic efforts. Canada actually was a very unlucky race for him. He was leading quite comfortably before a safety car put him down the order, and as he was trying to make his way back up, he was caught out by the spinning Alfa Romeos of Swinney, and that took him out of that race, rubbing salt in the wound really to what was already a race win down the pan because of circumstances that were well beyond his control. Jay Hartnell for Haas makes his way down towards the braking zone of turn 13. Pires has retired from the session. He has crashed on the exit of turn 4. That makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense for a crash to happen there. We do see it, and yeah, there he is. So there's his car stricken through turn 4, and he hasn't. Well, he's put a 118.5 on the board, but undoubtedly that will be him. Yeah, well, that time it would have been enough at the moment to put him into P12, but that crash will, I think, eliminate him. From what I'm seeing on the timing screens, at least, that'll eliminate him from Q1, which is quite peculiar, really. Usually, when someone crashes out, Sport Crazy also retires from the session for Aston Martin. He's done that in the pits, I think. So yeah, he's decided that. Oh, and there's a spin. Just as we cut away from the AlphaTauri. Anyway, Jay Hartnell fast up to P2 anyway for him. Whilst we were watching all of that taking place, he's gone up to 2nd place in the Haas. That little bit of housekeeping whilst we're trying to figure out what on earth is going on. Lorenzo's headed back out onto the racetrack. P9 at the moment for him. So he probably want to improve. Sausage Joe then. Well, it's a shame really that he spun where he did, because now he's got to make it all the way back round to the pits. And he will, of course, be aiming to improve. He's on medium tyres, 118.3. Lorenzo, his teammate, has also set his lap on mediums. And the cut-off time then is... Well, there isn't really a cut-off time at the moment, because there's only 14 drivers in this actual session at the moment who have set a lap time. Yeah, what I was going to say is usually a driver who had set a lap time in the first qualifying session but then crashes, well, they would still, that lap time would still count. So realistically, at the moment, Pires should still be going through to Q2. He just wouldn't be able to take any part in Q2 because of the fact that his car is in a couple of bits and pieces on the exit of turn 4. So that's a little bit peculiar to see that, actually. The fact that the game has decided to essentially kick him out of qualifying 1 instead of putting him through to Q2 where he just wouldn't set a lap time. But anyway, Jack Bowie in towards turn 2 for Red Bull. He certainly is a driver who would like to put a good lap time on the board. Moody is out there currently for Ferrari. On his previous attempt, he ended up colliding with a barrier and losing his front wing as a legacy. So let's see if he can finish off this lap and put something on the board for Ferrari and put Jack Bowie, our championship leader, let's not forget, under a bit of pressure. And the point for pole position in tonight's race could be so important. So too for the fastest lap. Every single point matters. It has done throughout the season so far. That's right, we've got 5 contenders coming into this final round. Moody up towards the line. P12 for him. So that now puts scenario 7 into P16 for Alpine. He's rounding the final corner now. He's almost 2 seconds up in the middle sector on his best lap time. Across the line for scenario 7 goes P14, 118.3. Jack Bowie then is the driver who is in desperate need of a good lap time. And he hasn't got one at the moment with 2.5 minutes to go of the first qualifying session. So currently, Jack Bowie is heading out of qualifying in the first phase. And the championship leader right now needs something pretty special as he approaches turn 2 again. He did have DRS open as Carlos decides that he too is happy enough with his progress in Q1. So he retires from the first qualifying session. Jack Bowie 0.2 of a second up. This is a big lap time, this, because if this goes wrong for Jack Bowie, it is a massive uphill struggle in the race to make up those points and maintain that championship lead tonight. There's been twist after turn over and over again, round after round so far this season. Are we about to get our latest one in the first qualifying session in Budapest tonight? Jack Bowie, he is up by 0.7 of a second in the middle sector. It's looking good so far for him to make it into the second qualifying session. I would say safe and sound, but it's been a little bit tense towards the end of qualifying. If you're in the Jack Bowie and Red Bull camp, as round the final corner he comes. It's been a good smooth run this from Jack, exactly what he needed, up towards the line for him. And he stays in P16. He lost a lot of time in that final sector, and that could be that for Jack. It is that. In the first qualifying session, we have got yet another dramatic twist in Season 7 in the final round of it, and we have our championship leader out of qualifying in the very first phase, and all of a sudden, Kaizen and Carlos, well, their championship aspirations have just been boosted massively. And just like that, second and third in the championship as Scenario 7 goes for a spin. Just like that, Kaizen and Carlos are right in business. Right back in business in this championship, as if they weren't already there before. And it's a huge boost for them. It's a massive moment straight away in qualifying. And, well, who saw this? Who saw something like this happening in the very first qualifying session in Hungary? Jack will be out-qualified by Kavolis for the third time this season. Not making it into the second phase tonight. And that is a real shock in this final round of the season. With our leader by 10 points coming into tonight. The driver eliminated from the first phase of qualifying. That is huge. Really is huge. Because Carlos and Kaizen in particular now, all of a sudden, it's looking so much better for them than it already was coming into tonight. Only 15 points were covering the top 3 anyway. But now, that is a huge task for Jack to recover in the race and score enough points essentially to keep his championship lead by the end of tonight. And he was looking good in the first couple of sectors, was Jack, and it all just seemed to disappear in the third and final sector of the lap. Sport Crazy then takes the fastest lap time in Q1. Jay Hartnell P2, Carlos third, Kaizen in fourth, Kavolis P5, Big Lou in sixth, Becco seventh, Wazza in eighth, Lorenzo ninth, for AlphaTauri. Medium tyres in Q1. Mystery rounds at the top 10. Sausage Joe makes it into Q2 on medium tyres as well in the other AlphaTauri. Moody P12. Nibby 13th. Scenario 7 and 14th. And we had Pimis. P15 set a lap time good enough for 15th to make it into the second qualifying session, but he'll be taking no further part in qualifying after his crash in Q1. But the biggest shock of qualifying, the major upset, is Jack Bowie down in P16 and with a huge task ahead of him, ahead of the race in the context of this championship battle. This keeps happening, doesn't it? Every single week we get something shocking happening in the Formula Racing League, and yet it's one of those, you expect the unexpected, but even when that does happen, you're not expecting it. It is such a surprise every time, and that's what this league gives you. It gives you shock after shock, and that's another major one there. So our championship leader will be taking no further part in qualifying tonight. 14 drivers left in qualifying. We're going to lose 4 more in Q2 before our top 10 pole position shootout after that. Medium tyres for Sport Crazy as he heads out onto the racetrack in the Aston Martin. And there is a benefit. We said it in Saudi Arabia as well. There is a benefit to having a teammate in these races. Kaizen has one. Carlos has one. Jack does have one in Cavolis. Lorenzo has one too. Jay Hartnell is the only one of our top 5 tonight who doesn't have a teammate accompanying him in the Haas team. But Sells has raced 9 times in Tier 2 this season. Has won a race, won the Belgian Grand Prix earlier on in the campaign. That was one of 2 podiums that he's had this season. Jay with a fantastic record. 12 points finishes in 13 races so far for him. Jack Bowie with 13 races as well. 13 points finishes to his name thus far in the campaign. An absolutely incredible record for him as this remarkable season winds down to a close with a real surprise straight away tonight. I'm still in a little bit of surprise really, but there you go. Will we have even more shocks than that over the course of the evening? Sport Crazy then up towards the end of the first sector split, which is just there before the braking zone, or the very short braking zone of turn 4, as he brings the Aston Martin through turn 5, uses all of the curb on the exit. So easy to lose the back end through that corner. Bounces over the curbs at 6 and 7. Manages to avoid invalidating his lap time. It's easy to go off the track at those corners. Has to just correct the back end, and then he does so too much, and he's put it in the wall. And Sport Crazy, probably one of our favourites for pole tonight, has put his Aston Martin in the barrier, and he is out of qualifying in the second phase due to a crash. He corrected the back end once, tried to do it again, and in the end it re-gripped, spat him back the other way, and nothing he could do once that happened. And that is him out of qualifying, the second casualty, let's say, in terms of crashes tonight. And Jack Bowie and Sport Crazy, as well as Pinnis, all coming a cropper tonight in qualifying. In terms of being eliminated, Lorenzo 117.0 for AlphaTauri. That's beaten by Becco in the Ferrari with a 116.6. Kaizen's P3 117.3. Carlos 17.5 for Mercedes. Moody is, he's in the pits, I should say. Sausage Joe has just begun a lap time. Clears the slow moving Ferrari of Becco as he makes his way through turn 3. Also got Big Lou coming towards the end of his lap time, so we'll watch the McLaren come through the final couple of corners before he completes his first flying run of the second part of qualifying tonight. Everybody so far has been out on soft tyres apart from Sport Crazy who crashed out of the session. Big Lou, P6. Empandro joins the session, but of course he wasn't involved in Q1, and so he'll be starting in P17 once this race begins. And he won't be taking his usual AlphaTauri slot either, because Sausage Joe and Lorenzo are in the AlphaTauri cars tonight. Jay Hartnell through turn 4. Traverses 5, makes his way up towards 6 and 7. Riding the curbs onto the exits. A nice exit too from Jay. Nice and smooth. Very coolly done as he heads in towards this third and final sector of the lap. Certainly Jack, being eliminated from qualifying, brings Jay Hartnell a little bit closer into play. Just gives him that little bit more hope that he is potentially tonight able to get this title win under his belt. Round the final corner comes Jay. One of our 5 title contenders across the line for him. Goes P5. 117.4 ahead of Carlos. One of his title rivals this evening. Mystery on a lap for Alfa Romeo. He also crashed in Q1 but was able to keep the car running. Only sustained front wing damage from that as he rounds the final corner now for Alfa Romeo and goes into P7 with a 117.7, so snuggles in there nicely between Carlos and Cavallis. So the pecking order so far: Becco in P1 for Ferrari, Sausage Joe in second place ahead of his teammate Lorenzo, Kaizen P4, Jay Hartnell in 5th position for the Haas team, Carlos 6th, Mystery 7th, Cavallis in 8th place in the Red Bull. And then we've got Wazza and Big Lou, who have also set lap times but are back in the pits now. We still have Scenario 7, Moody and Nivi still for set lap times in Q2. Haven't mentioned Nivi yet tonight, actually. Barely made mention of him, but he has had a good season. Quietly been getting the job done, has Nivi this campaign. 12 races, 9 points finishes in those 12. Has been on the podium once as well, as Scenario 7 loses the back end on his outlap. It's been just one of those that's probably gone a little bit under the radar, and the same can probably be said about Empandro too. He has scored points in all of the 12 races he's contested so far this season. 2 podiums contributing to that. Someone who we don't necessarily talk about too much, I think partly because of the fact that his teammate's been in that title battle, but he has been an excellent performer this season as Empandro. The consistency has been admirable as Scenario 7 begins his opening lap time of Q2. Most of the drivers are back in the pits after their first runs. Wazza, Big Lou are back out there on outlaps. We've got Moody on an outlap as well. Nivi still in the pits for Williams and Sport Crazy. He was setting the first lap time of the session before he crashed, heading in towards the third sector, and that will see him start this race in 14th position. Scenario 7 through turn 4 in towards 5. It's important not to hug the inside too much, but then also important not to swing the car too far out wide and give the rear too much to do. It's just such a tricky corner where the back end is always trying to get out on you, but that's right after the front end is also a little bit reluctant to get in, especially with these new cars. Through turn 11 for Scenario 7 in towards turn 12, that slight downhill braking zone, the short run in towards 13, and Scenario 7 here, as he traverses the final corner on the racetrack, is about to record his first lap time in Q2, and it is a 118.6, so not what he would have been hoping for, I wouldn't suggest. Here comes Carlos towards the end of a lap of his own, and is being shown there as doing a 3.5-minute lap time, which I don't think is entirely true. 117.575 is his best so far tonight. I think this is going to be his actual run now, I want to say. Not too sure. Anyway, He's been displaced by his teammate Wazza. 117.5 for him. Nivi has headed out onto the racetrack on an outlap of his own now, so he rounds the final corner. Flicks open the DRS rear wing, and he'll go round with 5.5 minutes to go of qualifying 2 to put himself into the top 10. We've already lost Sport Crazy from the second qualifying session. We, at the moment, are set to lose Scenario 7, me, Moody, and Nivi as well, but there is still time for those three to change that equation. Or for Scenario 7, change that scenario. Bad one. Really bad one. Nivi up to P4 for the Williams. A little bit wide of the apex as he heads through the left-hander. Will cost him 2 or 3 tenths maybe. Through turn 5 in towards 6. And then he overshoots at turn 6. And that makes that lap time for Nivi. So he'll need to go again. Big Lou has gone P4 for McLaren. Really good lap. 6 tenths, almost 7 tenths up on his previous best. So a really big improvement that for the McLaren. McLaren, of course, also unveiled yesterday. A lot more black incorporated onto the McLaren this year than there was last season. And the Ferrari, of course, unveiled earlier on today. A live presentation with Charles Leclerc heading around the racetrack. In the end, it was quite a ballsy thing to do. What if he crashed it live? But he didn't. It was all good. Lorenzo has decided that is enough, 117.0, and it should be enough to get him into Q3. Moody's headed back out there on an outlap. Nivi's just begun another lap of his own. Becco has the same thought as Lorenzo, so that's him done in Q2. Carlos, not necessarily. P9 at the moment, 117.5. The cut-off is a 117.7. But Scenario 7's lap time is a 118.6. There's quite a big gap between P10 and P11 at the moment. Carlos with a purple middle sector as he makes his way through turn 13. In towards the final corner for the Mercedes. He would love here to put a little bit more breathing room between himself and the drop zone in Q2. And he does. P4. 117.2 for the Mercedes, and that certainly should do. Corvallis is, well, he's P5. He should be nice and safe, really, at this stage. Mysteries on an outlap for Alfa Romeo. Scenario 7 still going. He has improved slightly just now, but remains in P11. Nivi's coming towards the end of his flying lap then. So, what can the Williams do? Currently in P12, 125.6 after he backed out of his first lap. Across the line, goes P11, 118.4. So at the moment then, Nivi also is set to be knocked out in the Q2 phase. What about Moody? What can the Ferrari do? We've got one Ferrari in P1, the other one currently last on the timing screens in Q2, having not set a lap time. But is that about to change? No, it's not. Crashes into the wall right at the end of the lap. That has got to be one of the most frustrating things Moody will have felt in a very long time. Spinning it at the final turn. And, well, almost to add insult to injury, he does cross the line and he does set a 130.1, but yeah, he won't have enough time, will he? He's only got a couple of minutes to get back round. The team have got to change the front wing. Then it would go through all of those graphics to get the car back into the garage, only to go straight back out again. And so, really, that is me, Moody, done in Q2 this evening. So that pretty much is your lot for Q2, I think. There isn't going to be a mad dash to get into the top 10. There isn't going to be a dramatic finale to see who's eliminated at the end of it, unless Nivi can pull something very, very special out of the bag here for Williams. Oh no, he improves, but no, can't improve by enough. 118.4 still. About just under 7 tenths of a second behind Mystery, who should be safe at this stage for Alfa Romeo. Wazza improves by 3 tenths of a second, P9 for him. Jay Hartnell's P8 for Haas, so that's him safely through. So the 4 remaining title contenders left in qualifying have all made it into the top 10, which isn't great news for Jack Bowie. Particularly when you see that Kaisen's made it in there. And Carlos has as well, and he's up in P4 for Mercedes. So, yeah, a little bit of an anticlimactic end, really, to Q2 after a very busy and incredible and astonishing end to the first qualifying session. I think those are the adjectives that I'm going to use. They're the only ones that I can think of at the moment, even though it's my job to think of better ones. Pretty remarkable scenes tonight so far in qualifying. Still have a 35-lap race, and it's not like there isn't time for the likes of Jack Bowie and the likes of Sport Crazy to recover those positions in the Grand Prix. Jack has to make sure he doesn't lose his 10-point championship lead. It was interesting, actually, late last week, as Wazza improves to P3 for Mercedes, actually. So there you go. That makes it even more secure for him, as if it wasn't already. And up to P3 goes Jay Hartnell for Haas. So he is putting in a bit of a statement at the end of the second qualifying session. Nivi is still out on track. No, he's not. He's back into the pits now for Williams. I thought for a second he might be trying to give it another go, but those tyres are now 3 laps old, so I think even if he was, he wouldn't be getting the purchase that he would have needed out of them. So that is him out of the second qualifying session. He joins Scenario 7, Moody and Sport Crazy, who crashed at the start of Q2 in being eliminated from that second session. So yeah, he does have to maintain that 10-point lead. Kaizen was saying late last week that Jack had it in the bag. He said he was the most consistent so far this season. He said that he was performing so well at such a good level that doesn't see Jack Bowie losing the championship lead, but we did see it in the United States with Kaizen when he crashed out, when he was potentially probably set for the win. All it takes is one moment, all it takes is one mistake here or there, all it takes is one slightly poor lap time in qualifying, and all of a sudden it completely jeopardizes your entire race, your entire round, and it puts you on the back foot in the championship. We saw it last week with Kaizen, we've seen it now with Jack Bowie. The championship, as I say, has been a swinging pendulum, and it has been violently swinging all season long so far. Becco, I should say. P1 for Ferrari, going into the third and final qualifying session. Sausage Joe in P2, Jay Hartnell in third, Wazza in fourth place for Mercedes, Lorenzo in P5, Carlos 6th, Cavalos in 7th, Big Lou in 8th place, Kaizen 9th, Mystery in 10th, everybody using the soft tyres tonight. Nivi out in Q2 in P11, Scenario 7 in P12, Moody in 13th place in the second, Ferrari and Sport Crazy, who was right up there in Q1, was trying to set his first lap time in Q2 on medium tyres, but lost control of the car heading into the final sector, and that was all she wrote for his qualifying efforts tonight. So another 12 minutes of qualifying, and potentially 12 of the most important minutes of the season for one of our 4 championship contenders to take pole position, with the other one sitting on the side watching them battle it out, having been eliminated in Q1. But what a story it could be for Jack if he comes through and wins the championship for 60th of the grid. It's not like we haven't seen things like that before. Sebastian Vettel had to fight his way up from towards the back in Brazil 11 years ago now, or just over 10 years ago I should say, in the Red Bull. That was right after actually he had recovered from the pit lane in Abu Dhabi to finish on the podium. Some brilliant recovery drives towards the end of the 2012 season for Sebastian Vettel to take title glory. And what are we about to see on this occasion, on this night in Hungary? Goodness me, what a title decider this could well be. Jay Hartnell out on his first flyer of the session. I just wonder if he'll believe a little bit more in the potential for him to take pole position and for him to take the championship tonight, now that he has seen the title leader eliminated in Q1. It's a lot darker out on track at the start of Q3. I do just wonder if there are a couple of drops in the air heading into Q3. And if it is starting to get a bit damp and a bit slippery out on the racetrack, then these early moments of Q3 are going to be important if it is starting to rain. I don't really know if it is, but if it is, then this from Jay Hartnell is going to be vital, because he's the first driver to cross the timing beam and begin the first flying lap of the session. I can't really decipher whether it is raining or not. I don't think it is. I don't think there's any drops in the air at the moment, but they are on their way, that's for sure. So getting a lap time in now might be quite prudent, because if you don't, you might just get caught out by some potential incoming rain. As Jay makes his way in towards turn 5 in his first effort in Q3 tonight. Into the braking zone of turns 6 and 7 comes the Haas driver. Bit of a short burst on the throttle in towards 8, then through 9. Heading in towards the quick left and the quick right of 10 and 11. Down the hill and towards 12 at the end of the second sector split. Clips the curb on the inside, heads in towards turn 13, begins the ascent up the hill. And then turn 14 as it just starts to level out mid-corner. It's a longer corner than it looks, this one. And onto the throttle goes Jay Hartnell across the line. 117.5 for Jay Hartnell at the beginning of Q1. That's beaten by Lorenzo with a 117.0. As Becco then beats that for Ferrari. 116.8, so a couple of tenths quicker than Lorenzo. Someone who isn't in the title battle tonight, but given his performances so far this season, kind of left a bit surprised that he isn't. Kaizen P3 for Aston Martin, 117.1, so just behind Lorenzo as it stands, finishing P3 with Jack Bowie in P16. That would do for Kaizen. That would land him the championship tonight. 120.3 for Carlos, so he's made a mistake somewhere on his qualifying lap. Cavalis is out there currently for Red Bull, about to finish his first flyer of Q3 across the line for him, and he goes P4 with a 117.4, just ahead of Jay Hartnell and in front as a result of Carlos as well, with Mystery, Sausage Joe and Big Lou still in the pits. Just as I say that, Mystery emerges from the pit lane, and into turn 1 goes the Alfa Romeo. So a couple of tenths of a second between Becco and Lorenzo. A further tenth back to Kaizen. About 3 tenths of a second between himself and Cavalis in P4. And then way less than a tenth between Cavalis and Jay Hartnell. Very tight indeed in that battle for 4th position. Even tighter between Jay Hartnell and Wazza. And then Carlos in P7. I wonder if he is going again, Carlos. Crossing the line this time, but stays P7. 117.6, so it's a big improvement, but it's not enough to put him into that top 6 and ahead of his teammate Wazza, who I've no doubt will be looking to do him a couple of favours over the course of the 35 lap Grand Prix that will follow qualifying tonight. Alfa Romeo, never a winner in Hungary before under any of their guises, as Sauber or BMW Sauber or Alfa Romeo. Only 2 teams that have won here and have only won here once is Honda and Benetton. It's out of teams, of course, who have won here in the past. We've had the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren are the most successful team at this racetrack. 11 victories at the Hungaroring for them. That's Mystery, set to purple first sector as he heads up towards turn 4. Did that in Q1, but right before he spanned, so this time he's kept it on the road, and it's all looking pretty good so far for him. Just under 6 minutes to go in the 3rd and final qualifying session in Hungary. Our championship leader Jack Bowie out in Q1, but still plenty of time in the race for him to recover that position. Kaizen currently P3 for Aston Martin, So he, right now, has that dominant spot, really, in terms of the title this evening. In towards turn 13 comes Mystery in the Alfa Romeo. Climbs up towards the final corner. It's been a good, decent effort this so far from Mystery. Gets on the throttle, flicks open the DRS rear wing, and it is P4 for Mystery, 117.2. Moves himself ahead of Kovalis and ahead of Jay Hartnell and ahead of Carlos, so it's a good lap that from him. Big Lou is making his way up towards turn 4 at the moment. Becco's headed back out onto the racetrack for Ferrari. Still got Lorenzo and Kaizen in the pits along with Kovalis. Jay Hartnell's headed back out there as well for Haas. Meanwhile, he's just made his way through turn 1, heading in towards turn 2 now. Big Lou makes his way through 9, in towards 10. There's the quick right of turn 11 for the McLaren. And in towards that braking zone of 12, the final sector awaits Big Lou, the final 2 corners of the racetrack. His first lap in Q3, and how is it going to look? Where's it going to put him in the context of this top 10? There's the DRS rear wing open, and it's P7, 117.5 for Big Lou. That just leaves Sausage Joe as the only driver in the session yet to set a lap time. Jay Hartnell is purple in the middle sector for Haas. He's had a really good lap so far. Stormer of a lap from Jay up to this point. Less than 4 minutes to go of qualifying. Round the final corner comes the Haas. There's the DRS line looking back at the final corner. Across the line to go P1. 116.6 from Jay Hartnell. And he is on provisional pole position tonight. But Becco has improved in the first sector. And he's currently looking fastest again as he makes his way in towards turn 6 and 7. He's got the McLaren of Big Lou ahead of him, who does get out of the way. And so that won't be a problem for Becco as he traverses turn 9. In towards 10. There's 11. And what's this going to look like then? Oh, he's gone wide at 11. Has Becco. That hasn't invalidated his lap time, though. He is purple in the middle sector. So despite that, despite going off at turn 11, his lap time at the moment still looks intact. I just wonder if the stewards... I'm not really sure there is anything the stewards can do about that post-race. As round the final corner then comes Becco. And up towards the line for the Ferrari. And he does reclaim top spot. 116.3 for Becco. Despite a little bit of an excursion at turn 11. Carlos then back out on an outlap. It is brightening up again. So any concerns that there might have been some rain tonight have pretty much all been alleviated now. And so Becco has decided that that is all he needs. A 116.3. And provisional pole for him at the moment, Lorenzo. P3 right now for AlphaTauri. Jay Hartnell in P2, the quickest currently of our championship contenders tonight. He'll have the best seat in the house of all of them. Here comes Carlos round the final corner for Mercedes, and he has backed out of that lap time, so he remains on a 117.6. So he'll go round again, I think, here. Yeah, I think actually that was a slow lap as well, wasn't it, from Carlos, I believe. I think that was an install lap followed by another install lap, and now he will have a go, I think, after this lap to put a lap time on the board. He's got Sausage Joe just behind him. Jay Hartnell remains in the pits. Lorenzo is back out there on an outlap for AlphaTauri. I think Jay then. Yeah, that is it for Jay Hartnell. So no more action from him in the final quarter. Oh, in fact, no, he is back out there on an outlap now. But is that too late, I wonder? Not too sure. Maybe it's just registered him as being out of track later than he actually was. Who knows? Either way, Lorenzo is gearing up then for his final run. So, well, this really, of all of the final qualifying runs so far this season, is arguably the most significant pole position battle you'll see all season. Kaizen has just begun a lap time for Aston Martin. There is Lorenzo just making his way through turn 13 currently as he gears up for his final run in qualifying tonight. Crosses the start finish line to begin his lap. Kaizen purple in the first sector. That's massive. Could this be the lap that displaces Becco here? Jay Hartnell has now begun his final lap in qualifying, so he will be able to go again. Kaizen in towards turn 9 for Aston Martin. He has been on pole 5 times already this season. The 6 would be the most prevalent of them. In towards turn 12 he comes. Clips the apex. In towards 13 for the Aston Martin. Wazza goes third fastest for Mercedes. Good lap from him. Pushes Kaizen down to P5. So he's in more need of a good lap time. Here is Kaizen and up towards the start finish line to go P2. Just off Becco's pole position lap time, and only just. It was close at the end between those two. Jay Hartnell is up on his previous best, but is it going to be enough to move into second place or indeed on to pole position? We'll find out. Lorenzo's just coming towards the end of his final flying lap of qualifying. He's up on his previous best, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough at the moment for the AlphaTauri, and no, it isn't. P4 for him. Moves ahead of Wazza, but it's a 1:16.7. Jay Hartnell, purple middle sector. He's 1.5 tenths up on his previous best at the minute. And so I tell you what, this really could be enough for Jay Hartnell. It's going to be close here as he makes his way up towards turn 14. How has this final sector gone for Jay? Oh, he's lost the back end at the final corner. And it was going so well. Pole position was right there, potentially, but it's all gone. Sausage Joe's invalidated his lap time, so he won't be setting one in the final qualifying session. And at the end of all of that, we do have Becco on pole position. Oh, what could have been at the end there for Jay? Becco then in P1. It is pole position for the Ferrari driver for the 6th time this season. Kaizen in P2 denied his 6th pole position of the campaign. Jay Hartnell in P3. Lorenzo P4. Wazza 5th. Big Lou in 6th. Cavolis 7th. Mystery in 8th. Carlos in 9th. And Sausage Joe unable to set a lap time in that final part of qualifying. So he will begin the upcoming race in 10th position. So here we go then. One final race to decide this championship. 5 drivers are in the hunt. Who is going to come out on top in the Tier 2 championship? Let's find out. You can cut this with a knife. The amount of, I would call it tension, just anticipation as to what is about to happen here. We've got our championship leader all the way down in P16. We've got Kaizen doing a marvellous job to be up in P2 at the minute. He has got the best position, and what do you know? What do you know? We start the race tonight with rain. Absolutely, you couldn't write it. You could not write any of this with the qualifying session we've just had, and now we have a wet start to the Hungarian Grand Prix tonight, the final round of the season. What a tremendous campaign this has been. It has been such a joy to watch, and I just hope that everybody else has enjoyed it as much as I have in the comms box. And it's only going to get more exciting as we get in towards the end of the season. Finn says, go Sausage Joe, the GOAT. Literally the GOAT. Not just metaphorically the GOAT. Anyway, evening Finn. Good to have you with us. The drivers then just choosing their setups for the race tonight. So, I mean, I spoke about that tyre rule not applying for this season. It definitely doesn't apply now because the fact that we have got a wet race. The only bone of contention really for the drivers is going to be, are they going to choose the intermediates or will they see the wet tyres as the better option going into the race tonight? I guess those are questions that will be answered in the next couple of minutes as we continue to wait for the lobby to load. We continue to wait for everybody to finalise those setups heading into the Hungarian Grand Prix this evening. It's the 6th time this season that Becco's been on pole, the 6th time this season that he's out-qualified a teammate, with Moody ending up being eliminated in the second part of qualifying. And yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, so Jay was on for P1 until that crash. It was looking like such a good lap in that final sector, but it just all went away from him at that final corner. But the pace certainly there for Jay. That cannot be doubted for 1 second. And as one of the 5 drivers coming into tonight in contention for the championship, at the very least, that will have buoyed him into a greater sense of belief that he can win the championship tonight. It is not mathematically impossible for him or for Lorenzo to win it. It is probably quite unlikely, and I think we have to accept that. But you never know what's going to happen. We have not been able to guess what's about to happen at any point in this season so far. So what should be different about now? And there is Jack Bowie. So at the moment, everybody is out there on the wet tyres. So it is too wet for the drivers to be out there on the Inters at this stage. And we've already got an Alpine off the racetrack. Who's that? I think it was Pinnis. I think. Unless it was... Who could that have been? No, it was Scenario. My apologies. It was Scenario who went off the racetrack for Alpine there. So that is a bit of drama already, really, before the race has got going. And a spin for Scenario 7. And Kaizen has been disqualified from the formation. That's all going off. Absolutely all going off. Before this race has even begun. Not even started yet. Ampandro is in the McLaren tonight. Usually in the AlphaTauri. Joined during Q2. We'll start this race in P17. Well, after 14 rounds, 14 exhilarating races, 3 of them sprints, equally as exciting, we are about to get the final round of Season 7 in Tier 2 up and running tonight. An absolutely remarkable season of racing thus far. 5 drivers can win the title tonight. At the end of the action, at the end of it all, there can and there will only be one. Which one of those 5 is it going to be? Well, those are questions that we are about to see answered in the coming moments. The Hungarian Grand Prix is underway, and once again we've been treated to an absolutely horrendous camera angle. What a start though from Jay Hartnell. Fantastic from the Haas. Straight up to P1 for him. Waza also gets past Becco as we head into the first corner. Kavolis on the outside, and down the inside goes Kaizen. And Kaizen spun round at turn 1. A disastrous move from Kaizen in towards the braking zone of turn 1. He's already thrown away a podium position at the moment. Jack Bowie's up to P12 for Red Bull off the start. Becco is still battling away with Waza for second position. Jay Hartnell beginning to escape out in front. Kavolis and Mystery were going side by side. Lorenzo's made his way up the order, and Kaizen's fallen down to P17. Yet another twist. Another moment of drama in Season 7. Kaizen, his Aston Martin, has come to a halt on the exit of turn number 3. Scenario 7's out the race for Alpine. And we've got Mystery, who has spun round as well for Alfa Romeo. Kaizen's been disqualified for parking in... I don't even know what to say. He's parked in one place for too long a period of time for the steward's liking. Having spun at turn 3, Kaizen is out of the race and he's out of the title battle. Mystery's lost his front wing. It was an awful move, really, from Kaizen in the end into turn 1. Misjudged it. all sorts of contact, and as a result, in the end, that's put him out of the Grand Prix, having gone for a spin at the third corner. And the driver who was given so much hope, such a boost after Jack Bowie was eliminated in the first phase of qualifying, has all of a sudden found his title hopes shattered, ruined, destroyed, and he is out of the title battle. It is down to 4. We have got Jack Bowie up in 8th position for Red Bull at the start of this race. It's been a brilliant start for him. 8 positions gained off the start, and he has seen his nearest title rival crash out of the action. Carlos is up in P4 at the moment for the Mercedes team. So that P4 for him would get him 20 points. Jack Bowie would be on 12. So the 8 points gap in this race would not be enough. So as it stands, Jack Bowie will still walk out of tonight as the champion. We have got Jay Hartnell on 40 points currently for Haas, and that would put him up into 326 points. I mean, you couldn't write that, because that would put him 1 point behind Jack Bowie. But he could get the fastest lap of the race, could Jay? Jack's won 2 races this season, as has Jay, and so on countback, Jay would then win the title if he wins this race with the fastest lap as it is right now. But we're only on lap 2 of the 35-lap Grand Prix. There is still so much time for all of this to change again. We've already seen Kaizen retire from the race, and I mean, we would need to see it back again, but it just seemed like too much of a rash move, didn't it, from Kaizen at that time into turn 1. I don't know if he just misjudged his braking point, perhaps. Certainly wasn't intentional to go into turn 1 that aggressively, but in the end put him down the order, and whilst he was trying to make his way back up, he spat at turn 3, and he is now out of the action, and the championship will not be going his way, despite it looking for a few weeks like it might do. And lap number 3 under safety car conditions, Jay Hartnell leads this one. He won in Canada. That was a wet race for Jay. In fact, he won both of the first 2 sprint races. Both of the first 2 races this season that were sprint races in Canada and then in Monza. And well, that really just epitomises what has been an absolutely incredible and remarkable season of racing so far in Tier 2. I don't really know what to say about that. Kaizen, he probably, again, we'll need to see it back, but he'll probably look back at that and say that he has thrown away the title with that move. But everything is so easy in hindsight. It really is. Ifs, buts and maybes, unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do about it at this stage, and he'll have to just pick himself back up and go again next season, Kaizen. In terms of championship glory, safety car is then in at the end of this lap, so Becco from pole didn't make a great start, still looking for his first actual podium of the season is Becco. Hasn't had one yet, despite being so quick. It hasn't made a lot of sense. Not much this season has made any sense whatsoever, but there you go. Jay Hartnell then has control of the pace with the safety car peeling back into the pit lane just ahead, and he's gone for it. And Wazza hasn't really gone with him. He was kind of on his heels all the way there, was Wazza, as was Becco, and he could be under pressure from Carlos here. Mercedes right now potentially looking to make up crucial positions at the start, but he's kind of lost ground there to Becco. Cavallis under pressure from 6th placed Lorenzo. Jack Bowie is looking to have a go at Sausage Joe. He knows he can't afford to just be content with what he has right now. Jack Bowie, he has to make up more positions. He's got to make sure that he's put himself in the best possible position to take the title tonight. And being in 8th place isn't going to do that. He'll know that. And he'll want to get past these AlphaTauris as quick as he can. Lorenzo and Sausage Joe. Empandro has made his way up to P13 off the start of this Grand Prix. Mystery, after his pit stop, having lost his front wing, is 14th. Pinnis in 15th position for Alpine, having also been involved in some of that first lap drama that saw his teammate Scenario 7 retire from the race. Lorenzo getting pretty close to Kavolis, and I'm sure the assignment for Kavolis at the moment is to make life easy for Jack Bowie, really, by backing these AlphaTauris up into him. It would be so crucial for Jack Bowie if he's able to clear these two cars, with Carlos 1.5 seconds now behind Becco. Jay Hartnell 1.5 seconds in the lead of this race for Ferrari. And Jack Bowie's losing out. He's 2.5 seconds back from Sausage Joe. Becco with the fastest lap, 1:34.5. I think what Jack would love as well is a Becco win, really. As into the pits comes Sport Crazy for Aston Martin. He'll dispense of those wet tyres. Does he dare to go for inters? Yes, he does. And it's a change of front wing, so it was more for damage that he pitted, but he is also going to... it's a bit of a pun, not really a pun, but he was going to push the boat out and go for intermediate tyres. Yellow flags. Who's that for? I'm not too sure. Anyway, Becco's fallen behind Carlos, so I think that's probably something to do with it. Carlos has just gained that position over Becco, who is now struggling for pace here, so he's clearly made a mistake somewhere, has the Ferrari. Under pressure now from Kavolis as they head in towards turns 6 and 7. And Becco, having started on pole, has now dropped to 4th position. So it has not been a good start to this race for him. Lorenzo is clearing Kavolis. Is he? No. Kavolis gets back in front, defends the position well from Lorenzo. Still Lorenzo tries. Still Sausage Joe looks to get involved in the action. Mystery passes Moody for P11. That's a good move, that. It's gone round the outside into turn 12. Brilliant pass from Mystery to take 11th position. Jay Hartnell, fastest lap, 1:34.3. What a start it's been for Jay Hartnell. 2 seconds ahead of Wazza. He loves these conditions, does Jay. Just seems to thrive in them. He's got tremendous pace in the wet. And he is most certainly showing that right now. Becco 9/10 back from Carlos. He's managed to weather that tide from behind him. Kavolis is he's still got Lorenzo for close company. Meanwhile, Mystery and Empandro have been getting pretty close. Empandro's just gotten past Moody, meanwhile. So, yeah, the McLaren up to P12. Moody back down to P13. Sport Crazy, I'll be interested to see what he does in terms of lap times when he goes on his first, I guess, actual timed run on those intermediate tyres. Lorenzo so close to Kavolis in this middle sector. Battle for 5th position. It's important for Lorenzo to make up ground 2. Could well be him making up some crucial points tonight. So with Carlos then up in 3rd place after Becco's mistake, that puts him on to 26 points this evening. And Jay Hartnell gets the fastest lap again for Haas. And so at the moment, yeah, I think Jay Hartnell is on for this championship win with 41 points to Jack Bowie's 12. It is a difference of 29 between them, with a current gap of 29 points. So on countback, due to having more race wins, Jay Hartnell, at the moment, is your champion. At the moment. But still so long to go of this race. So Jack Bowie, he's got to find some pace from somewhere, because he's 3.5 seconds, I should say, back from Sausage Joe. That gap is building, and he's actually going to come under pressure soon from Big Lou at this rate. Moody has just been passed by Pinnis for P12. I don't think we're seeing that much at the moment from Sport Crazy. I think it was... yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that, because I think it is drying. I mean, that's the thing. It is starting to get drier out there, so let's see what he can do. But at the moment, no fastest lap times from him. And of course, if he did take the fastest lap away from Jay Hartnell now, that would put Jack Bowie back in the lead. 26 points currently for Carlos. So where would that put him? That would put him on to 326. Oh, and that's a mistake for the Red Bull of Cavalis, and both AlphaTauris get past him, and they're now side by side going in towards turn 1. I'm not sure Sausage Joe wants to do this, because Lorenzo's the one fighting for the championship, but he has done it, and he's got down the inside, and he's got past it. So not what AlphaTauri would have been looking for from their drivers tonight, but Sausage Joe is up to P5. A mistake from Cavalis has sent him down to P7. What he certainly can do at this stage, if he decided he wanted to, is give a position to his teammate Jack Bowie. As he tries to have a look at getting past Lorenzo. Tries to cut back underneath at turn 5, but nothing doing at the moment. Still, they go at it. Still, Sausage Joe actually now starts to pull away. He's nearly 2 seconds clear of his teammate, because Lorenzo's been battling with Cavalis for the last half a lap. A little bit further up, Becco is putting Carlos under a little bit of pressure here. Sport Crazy's got a 3-second time penalty, and close for Cavalis into turn 12, but nothing doing right now. Still giving it a good go as they head up towards the final corner. Jay Hartnell, fastest lap again, 1:33.0 from him. So that's that 41-point swing at the minute. It's looking like it's enough at the minute, but again, still to be seen as Lorenzo then makes his way into the pit lane. Front wing off, new front wing on, so I think he would have lost that whilst he was battling with his teammate Sausage Joe. It's another set of wet tyres on the car, so he doesn't feel as though the conditions have improved to the point of putting the intermediate tyres on. He might get passed here by Sport Crazy heading in towards turn 1. Let's have a look. No, he won't be fine. He'll be comfortably ahead of him. Pinnis is just behind Mystery as they head up towards turn 4. Very close indeed, but not able to make anything stick at the moment. Becco still very close, and Pinnis and Moody I think going at it. Moody might have made a mistake actually through turn 4. He's lost that position to Pinnis, and P12 now for him as we rejoin Becco, getting so close to Carlos in towards turn 12. Goes for the move to the inside. It's very late. Carlos sees him coming, gives him room as they head in towards 13. Becco will look to cut back underneath him. Sausage Joe has found an awful lot of pace here, because he's right on the back of this battle now. Jay Hartnell with a 1:32.9 to once again set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Further enforcing at the moment that championship advantage. Into the pits has come Wazza. It's intermediate tyres for him. Sausage Joe in as well for AlphaTauri. And is he also going to go for the Inters? Yes, he is. We've got Cavalis in for Inters. Big Lou has come into the pits for McLaren. He's also chosen to go for the intermediate tyres. Everybody's changing on to Inters. Mystery, Pinnis. Lorenzo's back in again, so that's really costly for Lorenzo. Really costly. Sport Crazy with the fastest lap, so his intermediate tyres are really coming to him now. That's huge for Sport Crazy in terms of his ascent up the order. As away goes Lorenzo on those Inters, so he pitted just before for another set of wets. That was a front wing change as well. And then he had to come in again a lap later for more inters, and that's put him 15th and last of our current runners. But you also have to think about the fact that Jay Hartnell hasn't pitted yet, neither has Carlos. The two championship contenders up there, and neither, of course, is Jack Bowie, our championship leader. So the top 5 yet to pit for another set of, or for a set of inters. Moody is on 9-lap-old wets. Into the pits then comes Jay Hartnell. And this could well be Wazza into the lead of this race, potentially for Mercedes, depending on how this stop goes and depending on how well his outlap's gone, because the intermediate tyres are clearly getting a lot compared to the wets, as evidenced by Sport Crazy's fastest lap time a few moments ago. Becco has stayed out on track, which is interesting. Carlos is into the pits for some inters, and Jack Bowie pits as well for Red Bull. And he will also surely put on a set of the green-walled intermediate tyres. Yes, he does. And, well, actually here, Wazza is still P4, and we've got Nivi up there, who also hasn't pitted. P3 for him on the wet tyres he started the race on. 132.0 for Sport Crazy for Aston Martin. 11th place for him. That turns into 10th as he gets past Big Lou going in towards turn 1. And Bandra with the fastest lap, 132.0. And we're going to be seeing that fastest lap quite promiscuously swinging from driver to driver here as the track evolves and gets drier and drier and rubbers in more and more. Jay then in towards turn 8 for Haas. And Moody, what's happened there? He's lost a couple of positions there, Moody, in the Ferrari. Down to P7 he goes. He is still on wets, so he's still on the same wets he started the race on, which is why he's just ceded 2 positions in the space of a very short period of time, because, well, he's not on the right tyre. Neither is Becco, and neither is Nivi. Becco's into the pits now for Ferrari, but well, he'll lose a lot of positions here, will Becco. This is going to be really costly for him. Gets the car slowed down for the limiter. And let's see what happens here. Wazza gets past Nivi because he's come back into the pits. And so Wazza will take P2. But what's going to happen here to Becco as he re-emerges? Is it going to cost him a place on the podium? It will. Carlos back up to P3. Sausage Joe gets past him as well. Moody gets ahead. He's still on the wet tyres though. Mystery with the fastest lap for Alfa Romeo. Becco stays ahead of Moody, I think. They're still side by side going down towards turn 2. And do they try that? They do, and they just about get away with it. Becco stays in front, and Lorenzo sets the fastest lap. 130.4 from the Alpha Tauri. But he remains in P15. Nivi and Pinnis are going at it through turn 2. Nivi to the inside. Pinnis all the way around the outside. Goes off the racetrack as a result. Empandro will make it 3 wide going up towards turn 4. And he goes all the way around the outside. Fantastic move. Absolutely outstanding overtake from Empandro. Have some of that, he says, as he cuts back underneath both Nivi and Pinnis and gets round the outside at turn 4. Exceptional stuff from him. Cavalis is about to make easy work, surely, here of Moody, who is struggling to keep that car on the track. He hasn't pitted. Couldn't pit last time round because Becco was coming into the pits. And down the inside goes Cavalis. And into P6 then goes the Red Bull. We still currently have Jay Hartnell in P1. Jack Bowie is down to P9 now after all of those pit stops shook out. And so despite the fact that Jay Hartnell doesn't have the fastest lap of the race at the moment, he's currently on for 40 points by the end of the evening's action. It'll be 10 points for Jack Bowie. And so again, we're looking at Jay Hartnell taking the championship tonight with that. Absolutely remarkable stuff. You really couldn't write what we've seen this season at points. Lorenzo, 130.2 for AlphaTauri. The fastest lap again. Moody has now pitted for Ferrari, and that puts Lorenzo up to P14. Lorenzo is just over 5 seconds behind Nivi. Mystery is within a second of Big Lou, who is chasing down Jack. So Jack Bowie back up into 8th place now because of the fact that Moody has come back into the pits. That puts him back on to 12 points, and that puts Jack Bowie back in control of the championship. Only just at the moment is Jack Bowie still in control. He's 2.9 seconds behind Sport Crazy though, and he has a penalty, so that effectively puts Jack up to P7 as it stands. But Jay Hartnell sets the fastest lap, and that's another big moment in this title race, and so another point going Jay Hartnell's way. Here comes Sausage Joe, potentially here about to get past Carlos. He's been threatening a move for the podium places for the last few laps as Joe down towards turn 1 we go, and he has to stay behind Carlos for the time being. Jack Bowie now is just fallen 3.7 seconds behind Sport Crazy, and so once again with that fastest lap the championship swings back in the direction of Jay Hartnell, who has it again here. This is nuts. Lorenzo though takes the fastest lap back away from Jay Hartnell, and that puts it back into Jack Bowie's basket. Remarkable. Lorenzo 3.4 now back from Nivi. Jay Hartnell knows that the fastest lap is going to be important tonight. Mystery into P9 ahead of Big Lou. So a move from him to leave himself 9/10 of a second back from Jack Bowie, who is under pressure here from the Alfa Romeo, and he is still struggling to find that pace, really, isn't he, Jack? Hasn't quite found it yet in the race tonight. Got some yellow flags out there somewhere. They've quickly gone away again. There is Wazza, second appearance. He's on for his second podium of Season 7. Sausage Joe is still just behind Carlos. Jay takes the fastest lap back again, and once again wrestles back the championship lead from Jack Bowie with 21 laps to go of this Hungarian Grand Prix. Carlos is getting a great run out of the final corner, and he's just denying Joe the chance to get past him. We have 2 Mercedes cars on the podium right now behind Jay in the Haas, and quite a remarkable stat I found earlier ahead of tonight, as Lorenzo again has the fastest lap. 13 of our 14 races so far this season have featured 3 different teams on the podium. Tonight would be one of those few exceptions if it were to finish this way. And if it were to finish this way, Jack Bowie would have the championship because Lorenzo's got the fastest lap again. Joe still pressuring Carlos for that podium position. Carlos right now with his 3rd placed finish wouldn't have enough. And that is by the smallest of margins that he wouldn't have enough. Currently 26 points going the way of the Mercedes driver, taking him on to 326 for the end of the season. It would be 327 for Jack Bowie, and also 326 for Jay Hartnell. So currently we've got a bit of a 2007 scenario going on, with the championship leader taking the championship by 1 point from 2nd and 3rd. Becco gets in there, he sets the fastest lap, but that's instantly taken away again by Sport Crazy. Becco is 1.4 ahead of Kavonis, 3.2 back from Sausage Joe. He's our pole sitter, remember, Jack Bowie, Becco. Hasn't gone well this race, sadly for him. Still time for him to turn it around. Sport Crazy in 7th place, chasing down Kavonis. Lorenzo moves up to 13th now for AlphaTauri. Unfortunately for Lorenzo, it does look very much as though his title aspirations are pretty much dead and buried at this point. But again, you never quite know. You can never hang your hat on anything this season, because it has been that kind of season. It's been that kind of affair from start to finish. Joe still pursues Carlos, still finds a stubborn Mercedes in front of him, and an uber consistent one as well, and it is that consistency that got Carlos to the final round of the season in championship contention. But it looks at the moment as though it might just not be enough for the Mercedes. But we saw it last week. All it takes is one moment. something to go wrong for someone, or something to go right for someone. Jay Hartnell, 128.8. Fastest lap, puts the championship back in his control. And as it stands, the Haas driver will be our Tier 2 champion in Season 7. 17 laps into this 35 lap race. Jay knowing that he's got to keep those fastest laps pumping in. Because as it stands, Jack Bowie's still in 8th place, but he's in jeopardy here. Mystery is just behind him. Big Lou is not that much further back. Lorenzo, 128.5, and that once again takes the title away from Jay Hartnell and puts it back in the pocket of Jack Bowie. Empandro gets past his teammate Big Lou for 10th position meanwhile. And has he got the pace then to pursue Mystery and Jack Bowie ahead? Sport Crazy gets another penalty, but as it stands, I think his 6 seconds of penalty still would keep him in P7, because Jack Bowie's 7 seconds back from him now. 10.2 second lead for Jay Hartnell over Wazza. Meanwhile, Kavonis is out. Kavonis has retired from the Hungarian Grand Prix. He has crashed on the exit of turn 9, and the safety car is deployed as a result. And, well, what you will say is that crash for Kavonis has just massively helped his teammate Jack Bowie, because he's now up to P7, and that now puts him on to 14 points as it stands, taking him on to 329, and that would see him claim the title. Medium tyres on for Carlos, so he has really gone for that. Is that too early? There's still rain in the air, but I think Carlos is thinking here is just, well, I've got to take a risk for the title. He has to take a risk if he's going to win the World Championship tonight. That's close. Oh, he spun. Contact with Empandro. He spun round, and he gets a penalty as well. Oh, that's a nightmare. It's a catastrophe for Carlos. A real calamity for the Mercedes. He's pitted for slicks, potentially at the wrong time, and as he's rejoined, he spun round after hitting the McLaren of Empandro, and then he's got a penalty for his troubles too, and that there could just be the end of Carlos's title hopes with that one mistake. And was it even time? Was it time to go onto the slicks? I'm not sure. Maybe it was 1 or 2 laps too early, but we know how quickly the circuits do dry on this game when the rain does go away. And perhaps that was his thinking too. Either way, that has put Jack Bowie now up to 6th position for Red Bull. And 16 points now currently going to him. Sport Crazy is into the pits for Aston Martin. Is he going to try slicks as well then? Let's have a look. Intermediate's currently on the kart. It's the choice for everybody apart from Carlos at the moment. And so Sport Crazy here, that is medium tyres ready for him. So he is on the slicks. He's decided to go for the same bold move as Carlos did. And is that going to pay off? Is he going to have the grip on these tyres? Oh, has a massive back end loss. Does so well to catch it. Does Sport Crazy. Could have easily been both Aston Martins out the race there. As we get a look at the front, Sausage Joe then is up into the podium places as a legacy of Carlos's woes. Jack Bowie has now risen to 5th as a result of Sport Crazy's pit stop, putting him on to 18 points now at this stage. So 333 points would currently be going his way. And so as it stands, Jack Bowie most certainly does have this title in the bag. Fastest lap immaterial at this point because of Jack Bowie's track position, but again, plenty of running left to go in this race. As we get towards the end of lap 19, it's a chance to take a breather really. 11 podium finishes so far this season. Sausage Joe looks as though he's about to become the 12th one in the 15th and final round of the campaign. With Jay leading right now, that lead isn't enough to get him the championship, with Jack Bowie in 5th place at the very beginning of the Grand Prix. Kaizen, who already came into this round behind in the championship standings, then all of a sudden his title hopes took a massive rise as Jack Bowie was eliminated in the first part of qualifying, but a rash move to the inside at turn 1 was followed by a spin at turn 3, and that ultimately put him out of the Hungarian Grand Prix and out of title contention. Jack Bowie now has risen to P5 for Red Bull, having started this race in P16. Now suddenly for him, he is very much in the driver's seat for this world title. Big Lou and Pimmis have both come into the pits for medium tyres, so they've both gone for it. So Carlos potentially then wasn't too far wrong with pitting when he did, but ultimately the spin and the penalty has left him down in 9th place. Who's to say that is going to be the end of it for him, but yeah, it's looking a little bit more difficult at this stage, or a lot more difficult at this stage for the Mercedes driver, particularly now with Jack Bowie up there in 5th place. 16 laps to go. The safety car still leading the drivers round. Second safety car of the evening. Had one in the first lap when we had scenario 7 at the race, a crash with Mystery. Pimmis involved in some drama too, and of course Kaizen spinning out of the Grand Prix. A real season of ups and downs. It's been such a roller coaster of emotions for the drivers this campaign, and the safety car is in at the end of this lap. The second safety car restart for Jay Hartnell to negotiate, with Wazza just behind and Sausage Joe, Becco in P4. Jack Bowie in 5th. He would love to make up 1 or 2 more positions, Jack Bowie, off the restart. What he does not want to do is lose a couple of positions off the restart, because that puts him under pressure again in the context of the title battle. Jay Hartnell's gone for it again on the exit of the penultimate corner. Wazza is under pressure from Sausage Joe as they exit the final corner, and the AlphaTauri, is he going to have a chance here? Heading down towards turn 1, not quite. Wazza's recovered very well as they head into turn 1. Jack Bowie remains in P5 as he traverses the first corner. Carlos, meanwhile, has dropped to P10 on his mediums, so yeah, the mediums might... I think it's too early, because look at Nivi now eating up the ground, and Lorenzo's gotten past Sport Crazy as well. The Aston Martin struggling for grip on his medium tyres, so the move on to mediums might have been a little bit premature here, because we've got Nivi still putting Carlos under an awful lot of pressure as they head up towards turn 4, through towards 5. Nivi down the inside of Carlos. Carlos holds it round the outside, but there's only so much he's got on the exit due to his slick tyres, and Nivi says thanks and takes that off him. So Nivi up to P10, Carlos back down to P11. Moody here might have a shot at passing Carlos for 11th place. He does indeed get down the inside going in towards turn 10. Pimmis is out of the race for Alpine. He's made a mistake somewhere, and that is the safety car deployed for the 3rd time tonight, with Pimmis out of the race. And as has been the case all season long, safety car just seems to breathe safety car, and that safety car in particular has led to a pit stop for Jay Hartnell and for Wazza and for Joe, Becco, Bowie. Joe's sped into the pit lane, 5-second penalty for him. Mystery, Empandro, Lorenzo in as well. That would have been an unsafe release there for Mercedes for Wazza, as into the pits came Becco. And it is medium tyres for this lot. Nivi has stayed out on inters, but we've just seen how much those who have already changed onto mediums have been struggling since the restart. And they really were struggling for grip. And so, was that a good move from Nivi then, to stay on the intermediate tyres? It just depends how much the track has dried in the last couple of laps. But what this has done now is it has left Carlos in 3rd place. It's left Jay Hartnell in 4th. And it's left Jack Bowie in 9th. So Carlos would be on 26 points by the end of tonight. So that puts Carlos ahead of Jack Bowie this evening. Jay Hartnell's current 4th place puts him on 20 points tonight, and that sees him finish currently on 306 points. So yeah, Jay Hartnell's lost out as a result of that, but Carlos here with that 26 point swing, it just depends really on who has the fastest lap, and that is Lorenzo at the moment. But right now then, Carlos in P3 in this race with Sport Crazy P1, Nibby P2 ahead of him, Jay Hartnell P4 and Jack Bowie down in P9. That now puts Carlos in the lead of the championship this evening. So just as I was saying before, he had that spin, he made that contact with Empandro, got a penalty as a result. Now all of a sudden, as it stands, he leads the standings, but he does have that penalty, and that does put Jay Hartnell ahead of him prospectively. But the 26 points for Jay would not be enough. He really needs to win, Jay Hartnell, to take out the championship this evening. Another twist. Yet another one in Season 7 in Tier 2. And we will surely be seeing more of them. But that penalty could be crucial, because the difference between 3rd and 4th is 6 points. And that difference puts Jack Bowie back in the lead of the championship at the moment. Because if Jack were to finish P9 and collect 10 points, then he would be on 325 points. And Carlos being in 3rd currently sees him win the title by 1 single point from Jack Bowie. But if he were to lose that position because of his penalty, then that puts Jack Bowie back in the lead of the championship. Goodness me, who is going to win this championship here? Almost the almost irony of it is, whoever wins the title tonight probably isn't going to be the race winner. Maybe not, but Carlos, you never know, could still win it. I say probably, but Sport Crazy has got a penalty. Nevy's still on intermediate tyres, which at this stage he now shouldn't be, because you can see how dry the track is at this stage. It was too early before, it's kind of too late now. Nevy's got a pit. That puts Carlos in P2 at this stage. Really, it just depends on where Carlos is going to be heading on to the final lap of the race, given that he has a penalty. And where's Jack Bowie going to be as well? Are the dry conditions going to suit him better than the wet did? Is he going to make up ground here? The Red Bull. All of that remains to be seen. All those questions are going to get answered in the next 13 laps or so. I will try my best to keep up to date with the maths on this one. It's been so difficult so far to do that, and it keeps changing as well. Sport Crazy's taken a different approach to what Jay Hartnell did, and he's gone for it on the exit of the final corner. And that's quite smart, because he knows that Nivy isn't really going to have the grip to go with it into turn 1. He's going to sail off if he tries to brake too late. Meanwhile, Wazza looking for the move down the inside. And actually, Jay Hartnell's gone to the outside of Carlos heading into turn 1. And Jay's got the inside for turn 2, and he's made contact with Nivy, and he's almost spun round, and Carlos says thank you very much and takes P2 from Nivy, but then he's made a mistake through 3. He's done well to collect it. Stays in P2, does Carlos. Further down the order, Big Lou is losing ground for McLaren. He's spun round somewhere. Waz has got past Nivy, because Nivy's really struggling now on those intermediate tyres. We've got Sausage Joe falling down the order for Alpha Tauri. Jack Bowie's fallen to 10th place for Red Bull, so it's got a little bit worse for him. So as it stands, Carlos now is our champion for Season 7 in Tier 2, but he does have that penalty. Moody gets a penalty as well for Ferrari. Sausage Joe then just ahead of Jack Bowie, who is under pressure now from Empandro in the McLaren. We've still got Nivy out there on the inters. He's got to pit surely at the end of this lap. Has Nivy. There's surely no point continuing on that set of tyres. Mystery cuts back underneath Becco and has a look going into the final corner. Sport Crazy takes the fastest lap of the race for Aston Martin. Really good run that for Lorenzo on the exit of the final corner for AlphaTauri. And he goes to the outside of Mystery in towards turn 1. Mystery should have that covered, but Lorenzo is going to try and hold it round the outside, and that will turn into the inside for turn 2 if he can get there, but he can't. And Mystery stays in front and remains in P6. Jack Bowie back up to P9 now for Red Bull because of Nivi's pit stop, but who knows how long that's going to last, because look at Moody all over him as they head up towards turn 4. Doesn't quite get past him yet, but Jack is under real pressure here from the Ferrari. Look at the pace there for Moody on the exit of turn 5 as they head in towards 6 and 7. Just has that pace advantage over Jack at the moment. And Jack arrest this fall down the order. Jay Hartnell is 0.3 of a second back from Carlos at the moment. Through the penultimate corner they go. 32 points. Oh, and a wide goes Jay at the final corner. A mistake from him, and Carlos has lost out massively as a result. The two making contact, and Carlos down to P7 now. And that massively changes things again. Carlos falling to 7th. Jay Hartnell up to 2nd place for Haas. Too busy looking at the championship standings before looking up and seeing what on earth had happened between Jay Hartnell and Carlos. The two of them getting into contact, and as a result, Jay Hartnell remaining in P2. What will the stewards have to say about that more specifically? And Carlos falling down to 7th. Jay Hartnell on 32 points tonight currently puts him on to 318 by the end of the night, and so it really isn't enough at the moment, with Jack Bowie's 10 points currently putting him on to 325. So that incident between Jay and Carlos has just put Jack Bowie back in control of the World Championship again, and really he's been done a bit of a favour there by Jay and Carlos. As we make our way in towards the final few laps of this race, lap 27 of 35, and I can tell you what happened actually. You probably already know. Meanwhile, before I fill you in on everything that's been happening, we've got Mystery falling down the order. He spun at turn 1 for Alfa Romeo, and he's got going again, so no need for a safety car. He's lost his front wing though, has Mystery. As into the pits comes Sausage Joe again for AlphaTauri. This race has gone horribly wrong for him. Carlos lost the final corner, and we have got a safety car actually. The safety car has been deployed as a result of that. I'm surprised, but I'm surprised. Carlos lost the back end, and that forced Jay wide as a result. So yeah, the stewards won't have anything to say about that. Carlos lost it all on his own, and Jay took advantage and got up into 2nd place. Wow, what Jay needs at the moment is to take the lead of the race, really. But Jack Bowie's in P7 now, which currently, as it stands, puts him onto 14 points tonight. So 329 points would be his finishing total, and Jay's 32 points would see him finish the season on 318. Right, some pit lane action as a result of this safety car. And Bandrol, Big Lou, Lorenzo and Mystery all into the pits. Big Lou's going to have to wait because of his teammate just having pitted before him. There is Lorenzo onto soft tyres and a new front wing on his car as well, in a race for one of our 5 title contenders tonight, which just hasn't really worked out at all. Nivi into the pits for Williams, He'll drive towards the end of the pit lane, and the soft tyres waiting for him as well. So away he goes, and there'll be a few bids here for fastest lap as a result of that. So another safety car this evening. This time it will be Sport Crazy leading the drivers away. And we've got a whole train of cars. Empandro, Big Lou, Lorenzo, Mystery, Nivy and Sausage Joe, all waiting to try and take advantage of the drivers in front, who are on older medium tyres. So this could be an interesting finish here. It will be an interesting finish, that's for sure. Jack Bowy's risen to 6th place, which is 16 points by the end of the night for him. So Jack Bowy is back in control of this title battle. He's been in control of it a couple of times tonight, and it has slipped from his grasp. He will be determined to make sure it doesn't do so again. The best that Jay Hartnell can do tonight is win. It's the best thing he can do. Potentially with the fastest lap as well would be ideal for him, of course, to put him on to 41 points tonight. And if that were to happen, a 41 point gain for Jay Hartnell would place him onto 327 tonight. So he would need Jack Bowy to score 12 points or less this evening, which would be an 8th place finish. So he needs to gain a position, get the fastest lap, and hope that Jack Bowy loses a couple of spots. It's not completely out of the question that, with a few laps to go. It's not out of the equation. Carlos is P5 currently, 18 points for him at the moment, putting him on to 318. But of course Jack Bowy's ahead of him. One position behind him. And so Jack Bowy would still be in front of Carlos by the end of the title battle this evening. Such a tight title race this from start to finish. Carlos has a penalty as well, though. That is worth remembering. So that will probably see him lose a position, given the fact that this safety car has come within such close proximity of the checkered flag tonight. And it is in at the end of this lap. So in a few moments' time we will get going again. The safety car will peel into the pits, and Sport Crazy, who was so quick in qualifying but crashed out of the second phase of qualifying, was easily going to be one of the front runners, I think, for pole position by the end of it. But he now finds himself leading, and he now finds himself in the position of holding off Jay Hartnell to take victory in Season 7. The final few laps of the season. At the moment, we've got Jack Bowy as our world champion. Sport Crazy's gone for it on the exit of the final corner. It's a good restart from him. Jay Hartnell trying to go with it. Becco is having a good look at... in fact, Carlos is having a good look at Becco, I should say. In towards turn 1. Cuts back underneath. That's a brilliant move from Carlos. Fantastic stuff. Up to P4 he goes in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jack Bowy's still behind in P6, so currently 20 points going the way of Carlos. Jack Bowy under pressure from Empandro, behind in the McLaren, under lots of pressure as they headed towards turn 4, but nothing Empandro can do as they approach the apex of turn 4. Really good restart from Sport Crazy, 1 second ahead of Jay Hartnell already, and here comes Empandro in towards turn 6. Jack Bowy leaves some space and stays in front. A bit of debris flying up into the air through turns 6 and 7. Sausage Joe, I think, has been involved in contact with Nivy somewhere, I believe, because he now has fallen a little bit further down the order. 2/10 step between Moody and Big Lou as Becco gets back ahead of Carlos. So that is a potential. Carlos has fallen down the order because Jack Bowy's gotten in front, and he is now up to P5. Carlos has fallen down to 7th, and his title hopes take another plunge tonight. Just another dip in this roller coaster of emotions for Carlos. Moody is potentially about to get past him. Empandro still having a look at Jack Bowy down towards turn 1. Jack just about staying in front somehow. We've got Big Lou He's being passed here, is he, by Lorenzo? Has to leave him space on the exit. Sausage Joe's out the Grand Prix for AlphaTauri. He's had enough, retiring in the pits. And it's a big move from Big Lou on Moody. Doesn't come off. Lorenzo almost makes contact with him on the exit. Does well not to. And Jack Bowie under pressure once again from Ebandro as they head up towards turn 4. But he stays ahead and stays in P5 and stays now very much in the lead of this title battle in 5th position. 2 seconds between Sport Crazy and Jay Hartnell. There's a big train of cars here behind Jack Bowie. Big Lou does get past Moody, who also loses out. Oh, Big Lou's made a mistake though. He's lost the back end, spins off into the wall, and is back down to P12. With Moody now back up into P9. Almost runs into the back of Lorenzo. Almost out of sympathy. Mystery runs a bit deep too. Heading into turn 12. And all sorts of drama happening. 1:19.0 from Sport Crazy. Side by side here between Moody and Mystery as they head to the final corner. Mystery holds it around the outside. This is really good racing so far between these two. Mystery into the slipstream now of the Ferrari in front. Gets down the inside. Heading into turn 1. And he does get in front of him. And Jack Bowie's just fallen to P7. He's fallen back behind Carlos. And he tries the move on Carlos in towards turn 2. He's got Lorenzo just behind him as well. And Lorenzo's going to try and get past around the outside through turn 3. And he does get ahead. And up to P7 goes Lorenzo. Down to 8th place goes Jack Bowie. It's still, I don't think, is going to be enough for Jay. This will still be okay for Jack Bowie. But he's just lost 3 positions out of nowhere. Falling from P5 to P8. He's now under pressure from Mystery. Has he got damage, I wonder, Jack Bowie? Because you can see how much time he's losing. How little grip he seems to have. We've got yellow flags on the track somewhere. It's an understeering Red Bull by the looks of it. Mystery putting him under a lot of pressure here. And this is an awful lot for Jack Bowie to have to try and withstand in the final few laps of this race. Jay Hartnell in P2. 32 points going his way. Wide goes Moody. Is that a chance for Nibby round the outside? Almost. There's contact. Into the wall goes Moody. And that'll be undoubtedly front wing damage for him. Here comes Mystery. Down towards turn 1 we go. And Jack Bowie here is down to P9. Carlos is up to P6. He gets past Lorenzo. So the Mercedes climbing up another position. 6th place for him. 16 points currently on the board. And so that wouldn't be enough still to displace Jack Bowie, who is on for 10 points tonight. He's on to finish on 325 by the end of the season, which means Jay Hartnell's 32 points are also not going to be enough as it stands. Sport Crazy gets a penalty for multiple warnings. And so that will put Jay Hartnell in the lead of this race as it stands. Lorenzo back down the inside of Carlos, meanwhile. The AlphaTauri gets in front. Who on earth is going to win this championship? I've got absolutely no idea. Jack Bowie's on for 10 points right now. That would put him on to 325. So Jay Hartnell, and he is. He's within 2 seconds of Sport Crazy at the moment. So Jack Bowie, if he finishes in 9th place and takes 10 points out of this Grand Prix, and Jay Hartnell wins it with Sport Crazy's penalty, Jay Hartnell, I think here, is about to become champion. In more incredible scenes, Lorenzo climbs up to P5 by getting past Ebandro in towards turn 1. We are on the penultimate lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jack Bowie needs to get past Mystery, and he needs to do it now. As they head in towards turn 2, he is just behind as they head through the second corner of the penultimate lap of the race. It's all about that gap at the front, and it is all about this battle for 8th position. 8th would get Jack Bowie 12 points this evening, and 327 points by the end of the season, by the end of the night, will be enough for Jack Bowie to claim this championship. He's got to get past Mystery though, because at the moment this championship is slipping from his grasp, and it is heading into the hands of Jay Hartnell. He is 1.5 seconds behind Sport Crazy. At the end of this race, he will win it. He will be the champion by winning this race and by Jack Bowie finishing in 9th position. We are about to have an amazing finish to this championship. The final lap of an extraordinary Season 7 in Tier 2. This championship is about to come to a head. We are about to see one of the most incredible laps of racing you've potentially ever seen in league racing. In towards turn 2 goes Jay Hartnell. At the moment, this is enough for him. Carlos is battling away with Ebandro for P6. Ebandro stays in front. Carlos tries the late move down the inside towards turn 2. Does he get himself in front? He does not. It doesn't really matter right now. It's not enough for Carlos to win this championship. What about Jack Bowie? No, he's still behind Mystery. Still, he remains behind Mystery. And still then, this championship is going to Jay Hartnell. He needs to stay within 3 seconds. And he needs Jack Bowie to remain in 9th position by the end of this race. It's absolutely incredible going into the final couple of corners of racing in this absolutely amazing season. In Season 7, Jack Bowie here is still behind Mystery. He needs something so special in the final few laps of this race. He's not going to get it. Jay Hartnell rounds the final corner. He finishes second but wins on the timing screens after Sport Crazy's penalty. And as we head into the final few laps of the season, the final few quarters of the season, Mystery rounds the final turn. He's going to finish this race in 8th position. And Jay Hartnell is the Season 7 champion in Tier 2. An absolutely incredible finish to the championship tonight. And by the end of it all in Budapest, it is Jay Hartnell. It is Haas on top. It is your Season 7 Tier 2 champion. Disbelief at the end of it. Jay Hartnell, well, he was looking in the driver's seat for the first part of the race in the wet. It had all gone away from him, and now all of a sudden it is within him again, with Jack Bowie finishing 9th on track tonight. And that is your champion at the end of third ridiculous, crazy, chaotic, unbelievable title battle. And it was settled in the most unbelievable of ways. Jay Hartnell winning the Hungarian Grand Prix and winning the championship as a result. Beko in P2 having started on pole. In the end, he gets his first podium of the season through all of that. Wazza in P3, 2 podiums in 2 races for him. Sport Crazy in 4th, Lorenzo P5, Empandro P6, Mystery in 7th in the end, Carlos down in 8th, Jack Bowie down in 9th, and he couldn't quite take 8th in the end. Nivi P10, Moody 11th, it's Big Lou P12, Sausage Joe out of the race along with Pivis, Cavolis, Scenario 7, and Kaizen, who retired in the first lap and put himself out of title contention very early on. Well, what a finish to an absolutely absurd season of racing. Season 7 has been a real treat to watch from the start of the Monaco Grand Prix in round 1 to the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix in round 15. Jay Hartnell won the first race in Monaco. He won the last race in Hungary. And in the most dramatic fashion you could imagine, he wins the Season 7 Tier 2 World Championship in the Formula Racing League. Wow. We will see you all, hopefully, next season, where, well, this incredible bunch of drivers, this incredibly competitive field, will do it all again. From us here tonight, take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Good night.